Good evening. We're back at it. My mic's a little loud. Well, actually, it's not terribly. Hello, hello. For whatever reason, sometimes my mic turns on super loud whenever I start streaming. But we fixed that. Oh shoot! I forgot I forgot some coffee. This is my really fancy be right back screen. Be right back. Getting coffee. Hey, what's up, Equal Slash? One sec. I gotta get my coffee. I'll be back. Well, it's actually a protein shake, but it's coffee flavored, so it counts. But I'll be right back. 1 second. Hope you're doing well. Equal Slash. Good to see you again. Should probably mute my microphone. Also, when I come back, don't let me forget that I was muted. It's nothing like starting a stream and then going MIA for the first several minutes. You can tell I've done this before. Hello, Myra Martinez. Hope you're doing well. Equal Slash. I was looking at my phone when you went live. What a quinky dink. Oh, nice. Very cool. What protein shake is that? So the protein shake, this is like my favorite protein shake. I've drank a lot of protein shakes over my life. And this is my favorite one to date. Hello, Yornix. God bless you too, man. That's super nice. Emma, hello, Emma. How are you? I'm doing well, Emma. I'm settling in for the evening to do a little bit of coding, a little bit of chatting, a little bit of coffee drinking. If a protein shake counts as coffee drinking. Yeah. So yeah, it's a good day. You were first like. Nice, thank you, man. Equal Slash, that's a popular brand. Yeah, it's. I would say it's probably one of the more common brands here in the States, at least, because it's carried in Walmart, Sam's Club, and whatnot. So before this protein shake, the best protein shake I had ever had was from a company called Forever Fit. It's this is a super niche thing. So I used to work at a gym. I used to be a personal trainer. And when I worked at this gym in my hometown, we could pretty much order whatever we wanted from whoever we wanted. And there was this company, Forever Fit, that made a mango whey isolate. And it was so good. And they've discontinued it. This one right here. Forever Fit Fruit Blast. Yep. See, it's been discontinued. But I used to get this in the 5-pound tub. This was like, it was like drinking like mango flavored juice, but it was like protein powder. It was wonderful. It is 9:07 at night for me, not 10:06. So I guess I'm an hour. I'm in the Central Standard Time Zone. Hello, Movies World. How are you? Man, a lot of new names in chat that I haven't seen before. Shara. Hello, Shara. Whiskers, sitting in my corner playing my recorder. Very cool. Well, I hope you have a good night doing that. Emma Rose, I gotta go. Yeah, see ya. Have a good night. Sleep well. Shara, can I have Robux, please? I have no money to give to you for Roblox. I have 2 kids of my own who would much rather I buy them Fortnite V-Bucks or Call of Duty points or Minecraft coins. So I gotta save all my monies for them. / wow, those bastards. Yeah, it's heartbreaking that it was kind of expensive. It was very expensive. But yeah, it sucks that they discontinued it. Alex, would you rather watch a tree grow or... I think someone's asked me this before. This must be an internet thing, but someone has definitely asked me if I'd rather watch a tree or a Negro. And I think that the idea there is to get you to say something in such a way that it sounds like you're being offensive. But nice try, Alex. Or I guess it's not Alex, it's Alexis. I'm in Eastern. Nice, very cool. Night. Have a good night. That's not that. This is a Pakistan song named Haram. What? I have no idea what your people are talking about. Roblox kid, can you ban me? Sure, here we go. Hide user from channel. Somehow I've ended up in a very strange part of the YouTube algorithm because I see no familiar faces in this stream, which is super weird. Bunch of new people, very few familiars. Oh, also I probably should have pinned a chat message here. Let's see, I'm working on a Movies World Play It. No, I'm good, man. I'm not taking song requests. If you want to hear it, you can go play it. Let's see. Oh, / no familiar faces. I guess I should say one familiar face. All right, there we go. We're gonna pin that message so people can refer to it. That's one of the things I'm finding out about streaming is because viewership comes and goes, you inevitably end up answering this question of what are you doing or what is going on here, like very often, again and again. Hello, H. I guess I should probably give a little bit of an update on where I'm at. So with this project, I don't know if anyone cares, but this is the project I'm building. So I'm basically building right now. It's going to be a console app, but it'll eventually actually have a UI to it. But right now, it just is through the command line. So the basic idea is, as when I stream, I end up with these like 1 to 2 hour long videos, but there are pieces in those videos that would make for good separate shorts content. And so instead of me trying to scrub through an hour or 2 hour long video in the YouTube app, I want to be able to download that stream and give it to this app. And this app is going to spit out anywhere between 1 and, n number of potential clips that I could use for shorts. And I've got it working pretty far along now. So let's actually run it. Let's see. Open a new tab here. I actually have it to the point where we are extracting the audio, we're splitting it up, and then we're transcribing it. So let's go to StreamShorts. This is just an example of one of those projects where Movies World. What the hell are you talking about? I want you here. What are you talking about? / is Nightbot written in C#? Rewrite Nightbot in assembly? Nah, that does not sound like fun. I actually don't know what Nightbot's written in. Nightbot tech stack? I have no idea. Yeah, the internet doesn't seem to know either. So, I have no idea. I can't believe it's a free tool. That's the crazy thing. In any event, this is the thing I'm building is very much a tool that scratches my own itch. And that's the best kind of project, in my opinion. The most fun kind of project is when you have a problem, you understand what the problem is, and you can solve it for yourself with some code. That's a good time. Hello, cockroach. Nice username. It may be fun. Who knows if you don't try? I meant do it for the content. Oh. Well, you'd have to watch me spend like 6 months trying to learn assembly before I could actually get to doing anything useful with assembly, which I don't think would be good content. It'd be a lot of me screaming at my computer and slamming my keyboard. Okay, so let's try to run this, and we can actually see this in action. All right, here we go. So we're processing the stream. So what this is doing right now is it's using FFmpeg to create basically an MP3 from the MP4. That's the first thing we're doing here. And then the next step is we're going to actually transcribe the audio with Whisper. I thought you ran it on your local. It is, so everything is local except for, there we go. Now we've extracted the audio, now we're transcribing the audio, and we're using Whisper locally. For the LLM piece though, the LLM piece, doing that locally was just, on my hardware, wasn't going to work. So we switched to using Gemini's API to do the sentiment analysis with the LLM. So you can actually see it kind of, it's going to show you each segment as it transcribes it and makes its way through. / I want to learn assembly. I guess the question I have for that is like, just because you're curious to learn assembly? I don't know. I don't have any interest in learning assembly myself. Hello, Jackson. How are you? Laugh my ass off. I still don't know how assembly variables even work. Yeah, I have no idea how anything in assembly code works because I don't know it. / is that still Gemini? You mean using the Gemini API? Is that Gemini? Is that what you're saying? Because Whisper is not Gemini. Whisper is a speech recognition model, machine learning model that OpenAI created. But you can see this does take some time, right? But the benefit is this is all using local compute, so I don't have to pay for the transcriptions. And when I was using OpenAI's API to do this, it was like close to like 50 cents. It was about 50 cents per 1 hour stream. So for like a 2-hour stream, it was probably going to cost me like $1 to transcribe it. So while I'm probably giving up a little bit of speed by doing this locally, I don't care. It's worth it. Hello, Vidom. Vidom. That's quite the username. We've had a lot of interesting usernames this evening. Dallas T. Hello, I'm Ava. Said hi. Well, hello, Ava. Nice username. Your name is Ava, but your username's Dallas T. HHH, can I get laid with Gemini? I feel hot. I don't think that's how LLMs work, but okay, there you go. So it worked. It transcribed it. So now the next step we need to do the next step in this process that we need to implement is we basically need to send our transcription. It's basically step 6 here. So we need to send our transcription off to an LLM and have it basically do essentially what amounts to kind of a sentiment analysis, where I'm having it look at some text and offer a suggestion, right? I guess it's not really sentiment in the sense that, like, I'm asking you to assume if this is good or this is bad, but I'm basically asking the LLM to, like, look at this text and try to extract from it pieces of it that fit a certain criteria, is what I'm having it do. So that's the next piece of the puzzle we need to implement. Among Thacker, how can I start with Python coding? I want to learn good coding skills for analytics. So for Python, if you're specifically interested in Python, the course that I recommend for everybody is called Python for Everybody. I know, right? The course I recommend for everybody is Python for Everybody. This is by a guy named Dr. Chuck, and I'll just link this in the chat here. So Python course, it's free. I think if you're a beginner and you're just learning Python, this is where I would probably start. What else? There's also a paid. I guess the content's free, but the interactive part of it's paid. So if you're interested in, well, it's probably not helpful if you're interested in data analytics. I don't know. After you take Python for Everybody, I'm not sure where you should go for the data analytics piece, because this will get you started, will get you like the basics of the Python language, right? Understand the syntax, yada, yada, yada. But when you start talking about doing data analytics, that might be something you do a little bit of Google and YouTube, and I'm sure there's some free courses out there that kind of would build on that skill set. Or maybe someone in chat has some good recommendations for you, but that's where I would start. Matthew, since I've started to do moderation on now 8 YouTube channels, I've come across so many people saying weird and forbidden things without them to be sorry. So if you need one, I will gladly help you. No, I'm good, man. No need for a mod here. My channel's tiny. Do you know Bailey Woodworks? But somebody already said, I want you. The result, I've given him a minimum of 24 hours timeout, but he haven't decided to ban him. Yeah, sounds like you're doing an awesome job as a mod, man. I don't know. I don't know what else to say there, but good luck with all that, you know. No need for a mod here yet. / I thought you were going to say Free Code Camp again. Well, I think the Python for Everybody course is available through Free Code Camp. So if you want to go to Free Code Camp's website and actually take Python for Everybody, I think you can. But I always think of Free Code Camp as more as like a starting place if you're wanting to do like application type of software engineering, or like be a developer that builds apps. I think Free Code Camp's a good place for that. I don't necessarily know if it's probably the best place for like the data analytics side, but yeah, I don't know. Hemong, thanks, but also a new question. Why am I not able to enter as a business analyst? I am an entry-level guy. Yeah, I don't know. I've never been a business analyst. I don't really know that profession, so I don't really know what it takes to get into that world. Business analyst seems kind of like an entry-level role, so I would assume you'd be able to get a job. I'll say a lot. I mean, I'm a 32-year-old dad of 2, so whenever people ask me questions like that, I'm thinking a lot of the times I'm imagining like one of my sons when they're older coming to me and asking me that, and I guess my response to them would be like, I'm sure you can get a job as a business analyst. How long it takes you to do that, I don't know. But like, if you apply yourself, if you apply enough times and stick with it long enough, I'm sure you'll find someone who will give you an opportunity to be a business analyst. Sarav. Yo, what's up, Sarav? Joshua, if you take out that space between the exclamation point and what bro doing, you'll get Nightbot will respond to you, Joshua. Equal slash panda data frames good for analytics. Yeah, so equal slash, that's where I kind of was thinking it's probably good to start with like just Python in general as like a programming language, and then go and take some sort of data analytics class that's going to introduce you to things like pandas and matplotlib and numpy, all those kind of like, I don't know, what you call them, like the big three of data analysis in Python. Javon White, you have any book recommendations? Javon, what kind of books are you looking for? Are you looking for like coding books, software books? Are you looking for just like nonfiction, general nonfiction, fiction books? I very much enjoy reading. Although I should say more of my reading these days is I listen to audiobooks these days a lot more than I actually read a book, but I do enjoy a good book. And I've got plenty to recommend. I just don't want to make recommendations that you may not be interested in. Among trying for 1 year to get in. Yeah, man, I don't. There's not really a point at which you're like, if that's what you want to do, there's not really a timeline at which you say like, I don't know, I guess it's never gonna happen. If that's really what you want to do, you just got to keep knocking on doors, man. King Bent Pence. I'm a new coder. Where would you say is a good place to get all-in-one course for best practices of like 2025 level C++ code? So I'm guessing you're asking, where's the best place to learn C++ in 2025? Is kind of what you're asking there. I don't know, because I don't know C++. If it was me and I wanted to learn C++, I'd probably start with a Google search. Javon, books in general, any kind of books? Okay, well, let me look up, here, I'll pull up my Audible library really quick. So the book I've been listening to recently, I guess the book that I'm working through right now is a book called How Countries Go Broke by Ray Dalio. So it's kind of like a finance, investments, macroeconomic, history book. It's pretty good if you're interested in that sort of thing. If you're interested in kind of macroeconomics and investments and that sort of stuff, you'd probably enjoy it. If you're looking for nonfiction books or fiction books, the most recent fiction books I read was, so I'm on the second book in the it's by Brandon Sanderson. Why is it escaping me? It's got the main character in his Kelsier. It's a 3-book series. Why is it escaping me? Sorry, let me look it up. Brandon Sanderson Kelsier book. What's it called? The Mistborn trilogy. So the Mistborn trilogy. So I'm on the second book of the Mistborn trilogy. That's the most recent fiction book I read. I also started reading a book called Name of the Wind by Patrick Rothfuss. That was pretty good. I'm like on the 3rd chapter of that book. And then in terms of like software books or coding books, the most recent book that I've read in that genre is a book called Build a Large Language Model. And that was good. It was kind of expensive. It was good. Leo, did you know that farting too loud can cause you to produce a very loud sound? I'm deaf, so I wouldn't know. I mean, being deaf, there's nothing necessarily like funny about being deaf, but the thought of like the fact that a deaf person might not know if their fart is loud or not. I think people can kind of see the humor in that. So, good one, Leo. King Bent Pins. What code language would you recommend to pair with a C++ as a newbie learning new languages? Plan to make game mods and do AI work for context? Well, if you're wanting to do stuff in AI, probably Python. Probably should learn some Python because Python kind of dominates that world. For games, I don't know. I've never really done any kind of game development, and I've never done C++. So that's I'm kind of inept on that side of things. I have a question. Why is C++ called C++ and not C plus one? That's a good one, H. I don't know. That second name that you offered, man, that would just be a wonderful name, wouldn't it? Just rolls right off the tongue. Javon, thank you. I appreciate it. Yeah, of course, man. What's another good book that I've read? Well, the book that I read before, How Countries Go Broke by Ray Dalio, was a book called. I sound like such a nerd every time I tell people this. It's called. I'm kind of obsessed with like finance and like monetary history and anything like. One of my favorite things to do is watch movies and documentaries about the 2008 financial crisis. But I read this book called. I sound like such a nerd every time I tell people I read this. This book was called, it's by a guy named Alan Blinder, I think he's an economist. And the book's title is A Monetary and Physical History of the United States, 1961 to 2021. So yeah, but yeah, I mean, books are fun. You should always read your interests. I read a lot more nonfiction than I do fiction. No Rules. The book. There's a book called No Rules Rules, which is about Netflix and their culture. That was really good. Anyways, I'm sure you guys don't want to hear me ramble on about books forever. Dan's story. What do you build if Freed Code Camp isn't stimulating or challenging enough? That's a tough one, Dan. King. I see you're using C#. What are the benefits of it? It's a Microsoft-only language, if I understand correctly. What do you do with it? So King Benpins, you are incorrect. C# is not Microsoft. It is made by Microsoft, but it isn't only for Windows. I think is what you're trying to say by Microsoft only. It is developed and largely owned by Microsoft. It's open source though. .NET, the runtime that it runs on, is now open source. .NET, the runtime is also cross-platform now. So if you want to build .NET applications for Linux, for Mac OS, for Windows, you can. So modern.NET, modern C# is great. In terms of benefits of it, I think the one thing that's great about C# is it makes for a really great general purpose programming language in the sense that you can pretty much build anything you want with it, right? From web apps to mobile apps, desktop apps, little CLI tools like I'm building here. You can write really high level abstract code, or you can write really low level performance oriented code, right? So there's a database out there called RavenDB that's all implemented in C#. So yeah, I'm kind of a C# fanboy. So if I can convince you to go and give C# a try, I think you should give it a go. Hello, Norbu. Dan, basically, when you are competent at an entry-level dev. Okay, so going back to Dan's question about what to build when Free Code Camp isn't stimulating. I think, for me, the answer to that was largely building things that were of interest to me. Building things that solved a problem I had, or explored a piece of technology I was interested in, or allowed me to implement something in a way I had never implemented something before, right? So like something that comes to mind is at one point I had never really worked with like background tasks and the ability to communicate work about a background task to the client, right? So let's think of it like, um, you have an API. That API request kicks off some processing intensive task. So you offload that to a background job in a queue of some sort, but you want to be able to then have that background task communicate to the client who kicked off the job the progress of the job, right? So there's an example of something I'd never really done before, and so I wanted to implement that in some way. And so I built a project where I can actually show it to you if I can remember my login. So let's see if I can log in here really quick. Is this gonna work? Oh, this isn't gonna work because one sec. But I think like long story short, or long answer short, I think the key is find things that do excite you, find things that do interest you, right? Why can't I? Let's see. I want to edit my host file real quick. Yes. I know. I really should be prepared more to demo stuff, shouldn't I? Okay, let me reload this. I can never remember my login to stuff. There we go. Okay, so I built this tool. I guess you can call it a tool. It's a web app, right? So this is an example kind of to Dan's Story's question of like, what should I build, right? And so this was an example of something I built where the piece of software that I helped build professionally has this idea of basically relational data. And so you can create these apps that have fields in them, and those fields can connect to other apps. And so one of the things that is missing from that ecosystem is the ability to see how your apps relate to each other, how they're connected. And so I built this tool that allows you to do that. So you can put in an API key and you can build a graph like this that basically shows you how, in this case, how three apps are related. And you can see all the different fields that are connecting them, right? So this was interesting to me, Dan, to answer your question. This was interesting to me because one, I knew this was a problem that existed, and I was thinking of, well, how could we solve that, right? And so that was the first thing that was interesting about it. The second thing was interesting about it is that the potential is that these graphs can be very complex, that they can have let's say hundreds of apps with thousands of fields. Well, that's going to take quite a bit of time for that to actually resolve all that data in the background. And so we want to essentially be able to offload that, but I still want the client to be able to know about the work that's happening, so I can actually kind of show you this happening live. So basically, we're building that graph in the background, but we want to communicate to the client, so the client isn't just sitting there waiting like, what's happening. We want them to be able to see updates. So what we can do is basically offload that. And so I think I'm going to end up exposing an API key here, but I'll just disable it once I do this. So if I click add graph, we can say demo the test, and we will stick our API key in here. And oh, I was smart. I masked it. So when I click add, we're going to make an API request. We're going to kick off the processing, and then we're going to communicate it back. So you'll see this happening. So what we're doing is we're using a WebSocket connection here on the client, between the client and the server, to communicate about the work. Now that was relatively fast, but the potential is for that to be extremely long, right, in terms of duration. And so that's why this was an interesting project. So Dan, it's a long answer to your question, but try to find problems like that excite you, whether it's because of the domain of the problem or because of the technical implementation. Dan, thank you. Oh, Dan, super chat. That's very kind of you, Dan. You don't need to give. Let me just say though that you don't need to. Nobody here needs to super chat me. Like you guys all probably work very hard for your money, so please feel free to keep it. There's no expectation of super chats. But thank you, Dan. This is very much appreciated. Actually, hold on. I should probably reply to you in the chat, shouldn't I? Oh, I can't actually reply. It expired. Well, that's good to know. I miss some. Hello, which language is this? This is C#. King Bitpins, how is it speed on C# like execution support time? I think you can write C# that's incredibly performant. But I think you can also write C# that's not very performant. But you definitely can write it so it's very performant. Like I said, there's a whole DB that's implemented in C#. John, how can I learn to code? At John, if you're still here, go to here, learn to code. Go to freecodecamp.org and they'll hook you up. YYYD. What do you think about AI? I think AI is a wonderful piece of technology that can be very useful. I also, though, don't think AI is going to replace all human beings and their abilities. You look like Felix from Stray Kids. I don't know who that is. Let's see. Yeah, I don't know who. Yeah, let's see. It's a South Korean singer, rapper, and dancer. I don't know if I see the resemblance there, but nonetheless, thanks for the comment. Appreciate you stopping by the stream. YYD, when you say app, what do you mean, like normal web applications? Yeah, like a web application. That's what I mean. If I had to classify myself as like a developer, I would say like I'm a web developer. So when I say app, I'm 9 times out of 10 referring to like a web application of some sorts. / woohoo, free API. The key is, yeah, I know. I guess I'm a better developer than I remember because I actually did mask the API key field. Dan Story, I've asked so many devs this question and the answer always stops at build something that solves a problem you have. Yeah, cool, I'll build my own Amazon, I guess. Yeah, I understand that answer is probably a little contrived and it's not super helpful sometimes, but that's honestly for me is like I'm constantly looking in my life for opportunities where there's a friction or a pain point and it's like, oh, could I use code to reduce that friction or remove that pain point? And if I'm not looking at it for a problem in my life, then is it a problem in someone else's life, right? Like one problem that's come up recently. Obviously, this app that I'm building right now is definitely a problem that came up recently in my own life. But another problem that's come up that I haven't done anything about is my oldest son is involved in youth sports, and there are several mobile applications that a lot of youth coaches are using to manage their teams, but the apps are terrible and they're filled with ads. and they don't work very well. And so I'm thinking, man, that's probably a really great pain point for someone to solve, like a relatively simple, free app that youth coaches could use to manage their team schedules and practices and communicate. Obviously, when I say free, like who's going to pay for the resources and the bandwidth and whatnot, but still, like that's definitely a problem I see, and I think that could be an interesting solution to build. You would probably learn a lot about mobile application development and how do you publish apps to the App Store, and I can go on and on. But I don't know how else to get people. How else you're gonna motivate yourself to do things? Like if you can't, if you're not interested in following a tutorial, you're not interested in following a curriculum that somebody else has created. You sort of are left to your own devices. I'm currently trying to learn Rust, but I freaking hate that language. Borrow checker. Yeah, I tried to learn Rust at the beginning of this year for like 2 or 3 weeks by going through the Rust programming language book, and I made it to like the seventh or eighth chapter. Um, so I'm not really a Rust aficionado, but definitely when I was learning it, it definitely added like a mental weight to think about the borrow checker and think about ownership that I wasn't used to in like say TypeScript or C Sharp. So super interesting the way a language that doesn't have a GC that does memory in a manual way, but does it in such a way that kind of helps avoid you making really dumb mistakes. But it does change the way you think when you're writing the code, which was kind of an interesting experience. As someone who uses AI daily, uses it as a tool, not answer machine, going through C++ lessons with GPT has been a helper, is great, but I found some answers it's given are wrong. Always consult experts. Yeah, I would agree. Always be skeptical of an LLM. I heard somebody refer to LLMs as lying robots, and I thought that was spot on. I think it was Dan Abramov actually. Yeah, on his Blue Sky, he mentioned. Let me see if I can find it. I don't know if you guys know who Dan Abramov is. He used to be on the React core team at Facebook, and then he moved to Blue Sky, and I think now he's doing his own consulting. But he said, where was it? Oh, maybe he took it down. I could have sworn it was him that said it. Oh yeah, here it is. He said the lying robot is useful, and I thought that was wonderful. So now I'm going to refer to all LLMs as the lying robot. Hey Tallhaw, how are you? It's been a minute. Hope you're doing well. Equal slash. Have you ever used F sharp, Steven? You can make native apps in F sharp apparently. I have not used F sharp. It's on my list of things to try or learn. It's in that .NET family of languages, but I haven't ever tried it. No sleep. Exercise? Yeah, dude, I love exercise. My favorite forms of exercise these days are lifting weights and going for walks. And I have a garage gym, so I can lift weights whenever I want. And obviously, there's the outdoors, so I can go for long walks whenever I want to. Dan Story King, I was just having this conversation in a meeting today. I boiled down to using it as a turbo Google to gather information you then synthesize into words for a paper instead of just copy paste wiki. Yeah, you got to be careful with the LLM, right? Yeah, definitely careful in how you use it. Dune, it's a goal of mine to learn Rust. Dune X1 Vim or no? I have typically recently been using NeoVim, not Vim. The reason why I'm using VS Code tonight is there's a new piece of technology, or I guess a new testing platform that I'm using from Microsoft that it doesn't really play nice right now with my NeoVim configurations. So I'm in That's why I'm in VS Code. But I guess I don't use them, but I do use NeoVim. I'm like a 7-month long user of NeoVim at this point. So I'm still early on. / I learned Rust in a fortnight. Well, that's impressive, because it definitely that wasn't the case for me. LLM stands for LOL lying machine. I never thought of it. That's perfect. that's actually perfect. Stephen, F# is in ML family like OCaml. What's ML family? I'm not sure what that means. ML family. F# can be replacement for TypeScript or Rescript or Dart. Oh, very cool. I know it's more of a functional programming language, from what I understand, but I've never used it myself. I use LLM to gaslight myself into feelings better when I'm down. Joe Schmo. Who's a better programmer, you or Pirate Software? Well, probably Pirate Software, honestly. But I'm not. I don't know how to judge. Like, I don't do that type of development. I'm 100% confident he could do the type of development I do, which is mostly web development stuff. But I couldn't do the game development stuff. I've never written code like that. And he's probably a far more experienced programmer. Been doing it for much longer. Spaceman, hi from SpaceX Base. Well, hello, Spaceman. Hope you're doing well. ML equals machine learning. F# used for machine learning. I didn't know that. OCaml's used for machine learning. Is that really what ML stands for? I don't know. Oh yeah, meta language. Okay, that makes more sense. I was gonna say. ML in the context of F#, or machine learning in the context of F# seems strange, but the meta language thing makes sense. I realize also I've been live for 47 minutes and I've written no code at this point. So I think let's try to write some code. Yeah. I'll try to keep up with chat too, but we'll actually try to write some code if we can. So the next step in this process is we need to take these transcription segments and we need to send them to an actual LLM. So I have code that does this. I should also say that I've kind of solved this problem already. I've just been in the process of transferring my solution that was in a single C# file into like a proper console app. So we can delete this commented out code like that. And let's migrate. So what we should have is we should basically have something that's like what did I call it? I think I called it LLM analysis, but that's probably a bad term. I should probably call it short analysis, or maybe short candidate, or short. Maybe just a short. Yeah, let's call it. So at the end of the day, we're going to have a list of shorts. That's what we're going to have, a list of shorts. So let's define a contract for this, because I'm putting this in a separate library so that I can reuse this when I build the web UI for this. So let's create a new folder and we'll call this StreamShorts. That's a weird namespace. How about StreamShorts? How about just analysis? I don't know if that's a good namespace name, but so we'll call this a short And this will be a record. And it will basically have the same shape that I outlined over here in the program. I see the chat moving out of the corner of my eye. I'm going to try to keep up with you guys while also, let's see, namespace is going to be StreamShorts.library.analysis. Yep, just like that. And then we can go back to our default command and we can grab that using, let's see. We'll go here, global using StreamShorts.library.analysis. And then we also need to change this name to short. Yeah, so we're going to have a list of shorts, like that. We need to make this public. Let's see, rename type short so that it no longer conflicts with the reserved language keyword short, using a reserved keyword as the name. Huh. I didn't know that they were, okay. What do we want to call this then? I guess we'll call it a short candidate. Is what we'll call it then. Oh man, I completely butchered that, didn't I? That's not how you spell candidate. Candidate. There we go. Is this VBS? No, this is C#. YYD. I don't know why they chose to use Python for AI. I think Python became real popular in the AI space because the people who are doing AI, people who are advancing AI, are largely researchers and scientists that I think care far less about the computer engineering aspect, and they care far more about like solving their problem or answering their questions, running their experiments. And I feel like Python lets them do that, lets them get to a solution in the fewest lines of code. I think that's why Python has become so popular. Because at the end of the day, a lot of the libraries that are being used for AI stuff, for machine learning things, data science things, it's Python code that's calling like C bindings, right? So I think it's more about like the syntactic sugar that Python offers more than anything. / call it video segment. That's not a bad idea. Or maybe a short clip. Short clip. And that's a little shorter. Maybe we do that. Naming things is hard. We're gonna rename this thing like 6 times before the day's over, or the stream's over. Okay. And then we need to actually get the list. Aren't these objects like LM and Alice DTOs? Yeah, in a lot of ways they are. You could call them DTOs, but I would think of DTOs more in the sense of like an API context, or like a web app context where you're trying to represent something that's really more like a view model, right? But for like a JSON API. So you could definitely use DTO if you wanted as a naming convention for this type of thing. That's actually why I'm using a record as the type, because this is really just a data container. This is Pandora's box without vigilant moderators. Yeah, I don't know, man. We don't need moderators. The channel's so small. // I want to make a channel where everything you write makes the AI write code. That would be kind of interesting. I don't really understand the C bindings comment. Oh, so my understanding, I could be wrong, but my understanding is that NumPy, Matplotlib, I think, and PyTorch, TensorFlow, that these libraries that are used in a lot of ML and AI world, under the hood, the implementation of these things are really calling C code, or code that's implemented in C, but called through Python libraries. That's what I meant by C bindings. Jace, what are you building? I'm working on a little tool to help me make content a little easier. So it's going to take live streams and turn them into potential videos that I can post as shorts. // yeah, DTO is a data container, aka data transfer object. Yeah, I know what DTO stands for. That naming convention, I've not really taken hold of calling things like you'll see sometimes you'll have like, there's a user, like, I don't know if you guys are familiar with like MVM or MVVM, but a lot of times you look in a code base like that, you'll have like you'll have stuff that looks like this, right? You'll basically have multiple objects, and those objects will be, you'll have your domain object, which is like public class user, right? Then you'll have your you'll have something like public class user view model. And then you'll have something like public class user DTO. And so I think of this kind of naming convention in more of like MVC or MVVM or type of an architecture. It just didn't seem like DTO was the best thing to use in a library. So that's why I didn't include it as the name in the name. Viral Vortex. Hello, Viral Vortex. How are you? Bro, what's the use of this project? This project's really just for me. It's just to make my life easier. Who am I? Man, this syntax is very annoying. Very, very bad. What do you mean annoying? Are you talking about the attributes? This is what you're talking about? This is the thing you have to do with records or whenever you're using a constructor for your record and you want to apply attributes to the records fields, you have to, or the properties of the record, you have to explicitly call this. You can also write this like this. You can also do public record short clip, and then you could do string title, right? That has a getter, initter, and then you could also apply this like that. Then you just do JSON property name title. So these are equivalent. The only difference there is this has a constructor that allows you to not pass in anything, right? You have a parameterless public constructor by default if you write it this way. but I am sorry that my syntax offends you. The attribute, yeah. The attribute's purely there so that you can take care of the JSON serialization. What would the code be used for, Jesse? The code is being used for taking a live stream and chopping the live stream up into smaller videos that I could post as shorts. DTO and for like data equal. I see what you're doing there, equal slash. You're trying to drive home your point about the DTO name. Zed, what are more uses of C# language? Oh man, you can. I mean, the stuff I do with C# the most is build like backends for websites, like build an API, REST API, use it to build like a Blazor server side web app, use it for console applications like this. But you can do like just about anything you want with C#, right? You can use it to build like I mentioned before on stream. There's a database out there called RavenDB that's all implemented in C#. So it's really whatever you want to do with it, you can probably do. /Steven, why is VS Code angered about title prop? It was angered about title prop because it wasn't being used and it doesn't have a non-null value when exiting the constructor. So in C# there's a feature around nullability. So let's say public record test string title getter initter. So it's complaining here because title can be nullable, but I haven't declared that, and nor have I given it a non-null value when it's constructed. So you can make it happy by setting this to empty, right? Or you can make it happy by setting it to some value, or you can declare it as being nullable, which means we're basically telling the outside world that this property sometimes can be null, right? And this is a feature that you enable in your CS_proj file. It's enabled by default in most projects now that you create, like templates that you create. It's just enabled, but it's enabled by setting a property in your project file nullable. You set that to enable, and then you get those compiler warnings about nullability. Just makes your program a little safer. So if you were to try to access title in other code, the compiler would tell you, hey, you need to check that this title isn't null before you use it in some way, shape, or form. Who am I says basically crying for default value. Yes, exactly. Well, crying for a non-null default value, right? The nullability feature is kind of a way to try to help you avoid null reference exceptions in your code, because we all know null is the billion-dollar mistake. And so in a lot of cases, I try to avoid dealing with nullable types if I can. Jotas, how do you stream for mobile and share your screen? So I use OBS, and I think if you just set so what I do is I use OBS and I set my base canvas to be the opposite of horizontal, right? So if horizontal is 1920 by 1080, I set mine to be 1080 by 1920, right? So just stood up a vertical canvas and then stream it to YouTube. And then I think YouTube, because it's in a vertical format, YouTube recognizes it as like a short live stream and puts it into that feed. Nothing fancy though. Nuzar, how much time will it take you to build a backend of a ride-sharing app like Uber if you do this full time? I couldn't even estimate that for you, Nuzar. I've never built a ride-sharing app, So I'm guessing you want. I've never built a mobile app, so because I'm guessing you're gonna want like an Android app and an iOS app. So yeah, I could probably build it, but I couldn't tell you how long it's gonna take because I'd have to learn a lot about how can I build one app that I can. How can I have one code base that or one client code base that I can publish both to Android and to iOS, right? Because you're going to want an app in both ecosystems. And then you're also going to need to build some sort of backend for those clients to call. And you could probably start simple, right? You could probably start with like one code base for your client app, and you could start with like one API for your backend, and then implement the features, just doing a simple client server architecture. But to make it as robust and as scalable as Uber, I don't know, man. That takes tens of hundreds of people. Demetrius Smith, good stuff, brother. Well, I appreciate that, Demetrius. Very kind of you. / a short clip to me is a collection of segments. Fair enough, man. Yeah, I'm gonna leave it as a short clip for now, but I appreciate you trying to help me name things in a not dumb way. I recognize you. No sleep. A mobile wheelchair app? I don't know, man. Like I said, if it's a web app, I feel more confident. But if you start wanting like native applications, now we're in a whole new area of development for me. / Steven, the stream restarted at beginning for me. I had to rejoin. Was strange. Oh, weird. I wonder if I dropped. Maybe I lost connection for a minute or something. I don't know. It looks all fine on my end. I just want to know about building the back end of ride-sharing app in C#. What's your feature set, Nizar? What do you want this ride-sharing app to do? How real-time do you want the data? Like there's a bunch of requirements there. I couldn't give you an estimate. And if I could give you one, but it'd be totally wrong. I've never built it. I don't know what all the requirements are. So go figure. You might get a better answer asking ChatGPT. Uber has the backend for workers and backend for consumer. There you go. So like even there. So maybe you don't need one. Maybe you don't need one API. You need multiple. Hey, honey. Who am I? Why do we need a native app? We have PWA already. Huh? I don't know. I think if PWA, I understand what progressive web apps are. They're cool. But I think if PWA was the answer, we wouldn't have all these native apps. Yeah. All right. So we got our shorts clip. Then we are gonna say await console. This is just another status message that we're gonna print. And instead of transcribing audio, we'll say analyzing transcript. And then instead of all this code, we are going to say shorts. Yeah, we'll just say shorts are equal to. We'll have something. I don't know what we call it. What should we call it? Should we call it a transcript analyzer or I don't know. That's I don't know what else to call it. So we'll say this will be an await transcript analyzer or shorts editor. I don't know. We could probably come up with. I'm just gonna say short transcript analyzer. Analyze. I don't know what to call these things other than just terrible names. But basically, we just want a method that's like analyze async. Also, I realize analyze, you need to make sure you say that very carefully, or you the internet could very easily rip you apart, couldn't it? Yeah, so I want something like this, I think. But I hate this. I do not like this API at the moment. Equal slash. I gotta admit, Steven, I hate your names. Yeah, I hate them too, but I don't like what's this object or this class, right? What I don't know what you're gonna call it, service, right? It's going to be responsible for taking the transcript and generating a list of shorts. That's what its responsibility is gonna be. I guess we could ask Gemini what to call it. Let's see. Let's ask Gemini. Let's ask Gemini. Let's see. I need to come up with a name for a class in C# that is responsible for taking a transcript of a video and analyzing it for particular segments that fit a given criteria. What would you name this class? Let's see if I did any better than the LLM. Look at this. The first thing. Transcript analyzer. Okay? Look, I'm as smart as Gemini. That's hilarious, right? I mean, come on. We could call it a transcript processor. A segment extractor. I kind of like that. Segment extractor. Or maybe a clip extractor. Recommended choices. The number one recommended choice is transcript analyzer. So equal slash, how are you going to argue with that? How are you going to argue with the LLM? The lying robot says that's what it should be named. That is too fucking funny. I promise I didn't plan this. I do kind of like transcript processor, but it doesn't really process the transcript, right? It analyzes the transcript. I'm going to leave it as an analyzer. Okay, then I'm doing a little bit of wishful programming here. So we're doing constructor DI, right? So we'll have an I transcript analyzer, which is going to be a transcript analyzer. Also, Copilot has really been bothering lately, so I'm going to turn it off. Oh, I guess I already had it off. Equal slash, it takes transcription to input and output segments. Yes, this is what it is. It's 100% what it is. Anthony Howe, yo, Steven, try using Grok 3. It did a pretty good job one-shotting the 3D web browser game I'm making. Well, very cool, Anthony. That's awesome. I haven't used Grok much, honestly. That's probably the LLM I've used the least. But if you've had good results, I'll have to work it into my round robin. Right now, I'm particularly... So I pay for Gemini, and I pay for Copilot. So those are the two that I use the most often. But I'll have to give Grok a run for its money at some point. And that doesn't exist yet, so we need to go and actually create that interface, and then we need to implement it. So we'll call this I what did I call that? Transcriber? That's not right. Transcript analyzer. Once you make it public, though, right? Pretty much it lives forever. I tell you what, the only thing about streaming vertically is you're just not working with a lot of real estate when you're coding. Connect Brandon, I think that's how you say your name. I'm not actually sure. I'm just gonna say Brandon. How about that, Brandon? This program, what it's gonna do is it's going to take a live stream and then it's going to transcribe the audio from that live stream. It's going to send that to an LLM. It's going to ask the LLM to basically be my personal shorts editor and to tell me like what segments from my live streams I should turn into short videos, and then it's going to use FFmpeg to slice up the stream into those clips. Well, it's Snake. I'm sorry about that, man. I hope you get out. And I hope you also figure out how to clear your browsing history. /boo. Gemini sucks at naming. I was sent by Claude. I mean, we could let's try the same prompt to Claude and see what Claude comes up with. Why not? Was it Claude.ai? I haven't been using Claude much lately. Ooh, do more with artifacts. Okay, so let's see. We need to copy that prompt. Let's see. Brandon, awesome project. Oh, thanks, Brandon. Yeah, I mean, I don't know if it... I guess all the LLM are in cahoots against you /. Yeah, watch it be the same. You called it. Yeah. I don't know what that either. I don't know what that says. It either says that I'm as dumb as an LLM or I'm as smart as an LLM. One or the other. Yeah, Brandon. Yeah, I appreciate it's one of those projects, Brandon, where it's scratching your own itch, right? Like it's going to be on my GitHub, so I don't know if other people will find it useful, but I will definitely find it useful. So those are the best kind of projects. Forgotten one legend. We got coding live stream before GTA 6. Nice. It's nice to know where I stand in the YouTube algorithm these days. I did officially become a YouTube partner. I'm a YouTube partner now. So I can accept super chats and I can have members on my channel. So you could say my YouTube career is getting pretty serious, which is hilarious. If the LLM was a person with a brain, I would say that brain would be a baked potato. So you're saying it's not a good thing. That's what you're saying. You're saying the fact that I name things like an LLM is not a good sign. I hear you loud and clear. Loud and clear. Nana drawings, congrats. Oh, appreciate it. Yeah, I mean, it's one of those things that's like, I'm not trying to make a living from YouTube, so partner or no partner program, it's whatever, you know? But it's kind of funny. It's kind of funny that they call it a partner, right? Oh, I need to change the name of this. Okay, so we need to add a method here. So that method is going to return a list of short clip. And it's going to take in, it's going to be called analyze async. And it's going to take a list of, what do I want to call, list of, what was the thing I called it? Transcription. Now I can't even remember my own names. Transcription segment. Oh, okay. We can make this more generic. I guess I could do IEnumerable. Yeah. I guess this doesn't need to be a list. I guess this could be a Actually, I wonder. I would actually probably prefer this to be an iRead only, because I would actually not. I actually would rather try to program in such a way that I'm not going to mutate things. So we'll do read only. That's fine. Yeah, task return to list. So can I turn this into a read only collection? Let's see, list. I haven't really worked with read only collections at all. List to read only collection. How do you do that? Oh, you literally just create a new read only collection from the list. So then could we just spread it like this? This is a new C# feature. Can I do that? Nope. Okay. Yeah, I don't know if I like that, but whatever. We'll go back to an IEnumerable then, because I don't really want to worry about. I mean, I think the general rule of thumb is your parameter should be the parameter to your method should basically accept kind of the widest, right? You can take an array, you can take a list, right? Anything that implements IEnumerable, and then you should always try to return like a concrete specific type. I think is kind of a general good rule of thumb. Does list not? Why? Hold on, what? Oh, I'm an idiot. I'm trying to pass the shorts in, and I want to pass as the segments. I wonder if that's why it was complaining when I tried to spread it. I read only collection. Oh, okay. So it works. Okay. That's hilarious. That's my idiot mistake. I was just passing the wrong damn thing. Yeah, we'll do an I read only collection. That's fine. This is the dumb shit that I get. I spend way too much time thinking about this. It really doesn't matter. This app is going to have one user, and it's me. Okay, now we need to actually implement an actual analyzer. So we're going to use Gemini. So let's do a new file, and let's just call this Gemini Analyzer. This will be a public sealed class. Gemini Analyzer implements I transcript analyzer. Excuse me. Wonderful. Look at us. Look at us. We're actually doing something. Baked potatoes kind of good though. Yeah, but probably not for a brain. Go forward. What is he programming? Isn't it 3 dots to spread? In C# it's 2 dots actually. Yeah, which is kind of a it's kind of a questionable decision, I think, in my opinion, because if you're coming from JavaScript or TypeScript, which is, I think largely that's what the .NET team is trying to make C# as useful or as usable, as friendly as writing like a Node or an Express API. So it's kind of funny that they decided to use 2 dots for spreading instead of 3. But what are you going to do? Go forward. Do return aggregate. I don't know what do you mean what do you mean aggregate? I don't think I actually understand what an aggregate is. That's kind of a term from like domain driven design, right? This idea of an aggregate. But you'd have to educate me because I couldn't actually tell you what an aggregate is. I've just heard the word used. Go forward. What is a sealed class? So when you seal a class in C#, it basically just means you can't inherit from it, right? Which means I can't come down here and I can't say public class derived analyzer inherits from Gemini analyzer, right? That's basically what sealing a class does. The reason why I tend to default to sealing classes is because if you aren't going to seal your class, then whenever you're writing your class, you need to be thinking about all the things that you need to take care of when someone inherits from your class. And if you don't care about designing for inheritance, then you should just seal the class. And in this case, I don't really care about worrying about someone inheriting from this analyzer, so I'm going to seal it. You can always unseal it, but if you don't seal it and allow people to inherit from it, but then you don't design for the fact that people might do weird things when they inherit from your class, right? You could do not nice things. I think the thing I think about the most, like for this class, that's probably not really a concern at this point. Because it's pretty simple. It's just one method at this point that doesn't have any implementation to it. But whenever you start like injecting things into your class and your class starts becoming responsible for, or starts taking ownership of resources that you're responsible for disposing of, that's kind of when I start to worry about like, oh, what if someone inherits from this? Am I disposing of this in the right way? What if somebody else inherits from this? So I kind of default to sealing the class unless I 100% intend for other people to use this class as a base. Yeah, that's what it is. Mateo, is it a CLI? Yes, this will be a CLI, but my plan is to then, after I get the CLI working, my plan is then to create myself a web UI for it, just for the fun of it. =aggregate is like you take multiple things and you reduce it, I think. Oh, so instead of a list of short clip, you'd have like shorts analysis or something like that, and the shorts analysis. So you'd have, so if you had an aggregate, you'd have a public class called short analysis, and that has a public, I guess I don't need to declare it as public, but this, well, I guess I do, public list of short clip, and then you use shorts, and then this would have, let's just say it has a getter, it has an emitter with a default value, which is an empty list. Short, what I don't know, short clips like that. Oh, I guess we can, that's fine. We can do, so you're saying this is an aggregate? This is what you would refer to as an aggregate, and then return this instead of the list? So why would you prefer that though? I don't understand. What's the benefit of doing that? If who mentioned using an aggregate? Go Forward asked about doing an aggregate, or recommended returning an aggregate. Why return an aggregate over just a list? Excuse me. Hello, Artwork Studios. How are you? No worries, man. You gotta take care of school. So seal is like final in PHP. I don't know PHP, but this sounds like, yeah, that's if that's what final does in PHP is prevents people from inheriting, then that's what it does. Mateo, is it a CLI app or are you going to make a GUI? It's a CLI app to begin with, because I want to get something that I can use every day, and then I'm going to work on a little web UI. Mateo, you planning on using Blazor or classic web tech? I'll just use Blazor server. If I have to build like a proper web app these days in C#, then I'm just going to use Blazor 9 times out of 10. Anthony, are you going to turn this into an app that you can monetize? That's not my intention at this point. Yeah, that's not my intention at this point. At this point, it's just a tool that people could either get the CLI and run it themselves locally, or I'll build that Blazor server app and then I'll just package it up into a Docker container. And if people want to run it on their machine as a Docker container, they can do that. But at this point, now I'm not planning on monetizing it at all. Zed, are you married? Yes. I am happily married. I've been married. So I met my wife when I was 15. I'm 32. So I've been with my wife longer than I've been without her at this point. So I am married, and more importantly, I am happily married. / from Google. In computer science, an aggregate refers to a single element that combines multiple elements and their data values into a unified entity. Yeah, I guess I could see the value of having this as an aggregate if there was other data here that I was going to expose, right? But I don't think there's anything I would add to this at this point that would make this of any value. I guess having an aggregate does make it a little bit more probably extensible in the future, right? So if I do want to add things to what's returned here, this would probably be better to avoid breaking people. Like in the future, if I decide, wait, I don't just want to return a list, I want to return this class that has a list, but it also has other properties, or maybe it has methods of functionality on it. You've convinced me. We're gonna return an aggregate, I guess. Thank you very much, Go Forward, for that suggestion. So let's add a short. Oh, but short analysis is a bad. This shouldn't be short analysis. This should be a transcript analysis, shouldn't it? That's a better name. This should be transcript. So, okay, I do see, okay, so, well, I think I intuitively knew what an aggregate was without actually knowing what an aggregate was. Is that possible? I think it's possible. Why is this complaining? Oh, because now I've broken the... And then I need to go to my default command, and I need to return this to be transcript analysis equals analysis. And this is complaining because this should be... Oh, I'm gonna add that. There we go. Yeah, look at us. We're writing code over here. Mateo, instead of class, shouldn't it be a record? Well, I guess if the intent... So the benefit between, and maybe Mateo, you already know this, but the benefit between a class versus a record in C# today, the big thing is immutability and value equality. So for the purposes, I think, of that class, the reason why I didn't go with record and I went with class in this case is because the thing that convinced me to return an aggregate, a transcript analysis, is because of extensibility. In the future, I might want, maybe I want to add a method in here, right, that does something, do something, which I could do with a record, right? But I think for the purposes of this class, I get no benefit from it being something I would compare for value equality. That's not something I think this aggregate would be useful for. And I'm planning it for it to be extensible in the future, so it's not really just going to hold data, even though at this point it does just hold data, right? So I'm kind of opting for class in this case to give me, to basically prioritize making this thing extensible versus opting for it just being the ability to hold data, right? And just be a DTO object, as / would say. So that's my thinking. I don't know how clear that thinking is at this point, but that's why. So I picked record for the short clip because the only thing I ever plan to do with this is maybe add additional properties. And I could see it being beneficial to have some value equality here. If you want to see if two clips are equal, meaning they have the same start, the same end, the same explanation, the same description, the same text. So yeah, that's right now, that's kind of my framework for picking like when to use a record versus when to use a class. Like I typically default to a class if there's both data and behavior that I'm trying to encapsulate. If it's just going to hold data, then I tend to default to a record. Probably the length, the lifetime of the object's probably important to you, right? Like if the object is short-lived, if it's short-lived and frequently allocated, a record's probably fine. If it's long-lived and infrequently allocated, probably a class makes sense. But what do I know, right? I'm just some 32-year-old dad in Kansas trying to be a web dev on the internet. Also, Steven, if I'm not online these few days, it's because I joined GMTK Game Jam 2025. I'm very excited. I don't know what GMTK Game Jam 2025 is, but I'm excited for you. Oma Prakash Patel. How much AI code assistant should I use as a beginner or junior engineer? Should I write code on my own? Does it hamper my thinking or development? I know everyone's going to have a different opinion on this, Patel, but my opinion is if you're early on in your journey, you do not want the AI stealing reps from you. Doesn't mean you should know how to use the AI tools, but if you really want to know Python, you really want to know C#, you really want to know JavaScript, you want to have the language in your fingertips, you need to spend the time writing it yourself and not tabbing through the code, in my opinion. Mateo. Oh, okay. Makes sense. Thanks for explaining. Yeah. I don't know if it's a good explanation, Mateo, but it's record. The record type is pretty new in C# anyways. But the biggest value adds with it are it's immutable by default and it has value equality. And so if you don't have need for either of those two things, or I guess you could also add to that list, it's what is this? Is it? Yeah, so a record is stack allocated. So if these are small objects that are frequently allocated and short-lived, right, you get the benefit of it being allocated not on the heap in most cases. And then it's got value, quality, and then it has immutability built into it. So if you don't need any of those three things, or those things don't apply, you don't really need to use a record. Equal slash record is kind of like a store data struct, isn't it? Yeah, that's I think if you're familiar with like Go, a struct is like a record, or a record is like a struct in that world. Excuse me. Sorry, Patel. I see you asked that same question several times, and I hope I finally got an answer for you. You're not some regular person, Stephen. You're the Stephen Freeborn. Which probably only means something to like the 3 people who live with me in this house. A record is kind of like a Python dict with extra steps, right? I think it's a little bit more complex than a Python dictionary. Although I should say I'm not super familiar. I'm not an expert on using Python dictionaries, but records can have, the thing with records is records can also have inheritance. Records can have methods on them. So you can sort of use a record like you would use a class, but again, the biggest differentiator is the fact is like when you ask in C# when you ask is this instance of a class equal to this instance of a class, you're going to compare them by reference, right? Do these two instances refer to the same instance? Versus with records in C#, if you ask is this record equal to this record, the comparison is done based on the value of that record, the individual property values of that record. So I think the records in C# are a little bit more useful than a Python dictionary, but they're sort of meant to be that thing that you can use that's kind of like low overhead, simple. Yeah, I'm kind of beating that. It's kind of a dead horse that I'm beating over and over again, trying to explain. I should probably tell you, go go read the Microsoft docs on record versus class. I think the general advice is like when in doubt, just use a class, unless you need some of those very explicit benefits that a record offers. Excuse me. I've suddenly developed a cough here in the last 2 minutes. Artwork Studios, best last name ever, by the way. It's funny. So many people have asked me over the course of my life when they hear my last name. So many people have asked me, "Is that really your last name?" And it really is. It's on my birth certificate. That's really my last name. I wonder if Microsoft Docs. Yeah, I don't think. Oh, that's a good idea. How about we add that, huh? Or how about we just add like learn C# as a. Excuse me. Here, this is what we'll add. We'll add a command that's exclamation point C#, and it takes you here. Since I'm always trying to get people to give C# a try. Exclamation point C#. Or actually, maybe we should say learn C#. Learn C#. Okay, I added it. There you go. Learn C# like this. equals / C# is making my head hurt. I mean, I don't think it's terribly complicated. I mean, 9 times out of 10, you're gonna create public classes that have methods, maybe have some properties. The methods are gonna do. I mean, yeah, I don't think it doesn't have to be that complex, right? It can be complex. Like I said, you can. That's one of the benefits. I think that's one of the selling points of C#. I think is that C# can allow you to write really high abstracted code, like kind of what I'm writing here, or you can write really low level code. Right? You can manually manipulate memory if you want. Right? You can write sort of unsafe code that deals with memory directly if you want to. Oh, Zed, yeah, I remember your question earlier. You were asking about getting married, and you're 21, you said? So I got married when I was 23. I had just turned 23. It was right after I graduated college. Obviously, like I said, I'd known my wife since I was 15, so we're kind of high school sweethearts in that way. I don't know, man. I don't know if there's a good time. I don't know if there's like a right time to get married, just like there's not necessarily a right time to have kids. Right? I think the most important thing is finding a person you want to marry, right, and can see a future with. That's probably first and foremost. Once you find that person, I don't even know if like rushing to get married is really important. I think the important part is finding that partner. Then you can figure out the timeline of all the other events after the fact, but like finding the partner is the important bits. Can I just write functions instead of a smelly class in C#? Well, you sort of can, but so it depends on where you are. So if you're in program.cs like this, you can just write top level methods, right? So you can literally just, if you're in program.cs, you can literally say stack returns an int, add takes an int of x, int y, and returns x plus y. Right? So you can, this is something you can do. And obviously this is mad because I never call it. So you can do this in program.cs. But program.cs is really hiding a class, right? So in the old school C#, this would be a program class, right? So this only works when you're in the main program.cs file. If you really just want to write functions, though, then all your classes are basically going to be static classes, right? So you can think of a static class as like a module file in JavaScript in a way, I guess you could say that way. So if you wanted to have like I'm just going to start polluting my code here with examples, but if you wanted to have like a class called calculator.cs, so yes, this is a class, but you could also, if you treat it like a static class, you can basically treat it like a module in JavaScript that you import functions from. But you can have a public static class called calculator, and that can have just public methods on it that do things, right? It's like an add method, x, y, and this returns x plus y. So the method has to be a part of a class, right? And you would have to access it like this. You'd have to say calculator.add 1 and 1. But then you're not dealing with like you're not having to new up instances of that object. You're also not having to worry about state that's necessarily in that calculator class that's relevant to each instance of a calculator, right? So this is a way that you could sort of kind of do what you're asking, right? Like where, can I just write functions and pass things out and hand things back? Yeah, just create a static class and add a bunch of static methods and you're off to the races. There's there are some problems with that, like from a testing perspective, and it kind of I guess it just depends. It's an architectural decision, right? And a style decision. If you're just going to use static classes all the time, but you could do it. It's not really. It's not. I understand it's not really like being able to just have a file with a bunch of functions that you import, right? But that's about as close as you can get to it. Zed, why do Americans have fair skin? Well, not all Americans have fair skin. Equal slash. Oh my God, it's an inferred class. Well, it's not really yeah. I mean, it is. It's there at compile time, but people got tired of having to write it. People got tired of like. I think it's is it public static program, and then there was a public static. I haven't even typed this in so long. I don't even know what it's like public. Oh my gosh, stop autocorrecting me. Here, let me just, it's instead of me trying to type it and remember, let me just Google it. So before C# like 6, I think it was when it was introduced. Let's see, C# top level statements. What? C# 9. So when C# 9 got rid of that program class, it didn't get rid of it. It's still there. They just generate it for you, so you don't have to write it, right? But again, you can see this is a class with a static method that the runtime invokes for you, and now is generated for you for top level statements. But yeah, if you want to be able to just, you can't just have a function that isn't exist as part of a class in C#. Again, C# is a object-oriented language by kind of default and design, but you can, if you just wanted to write static functions and call static functions and pass static functions to each other, you can do that. I'm not going to judge you for writing code the way you want to write code. Static class has no constructor, or does? You can have a static constructor in C#. You can, let's see. Static constructor. Now, you can't have a static class that has a static constructor, but you can have a class that has a static constructor, which is kind of cool. Zed, are you okay? What if I put .getignore file into .getignore? What would happen? I have no idea. I've never done that. Somebody else asked that in a stream, but I have no idea what would happen if you did that. You ever seen Elixir, Steven? Seems like a sick language. I've never seen Elixir. I've heard of it. I've never read any Elixir code. Never looked at the syntax or anything. I just know it exists. I wish I knew how to say your username. Is it Quotus? Said hi. Hello. Chance said off-brand Scott Cawthon. Is that a reference to me? Because I don't know who that is. So I'm an off-brand of somebody now? I'm an off-brand of this guy. I don't know who this guy is. He's an animator, writer, producer, and video game designer and developer. He's best known for creating Five Nights at Freddy's horror. Oh, that's cool. I know of Five Nights at Freddy. I didn't know this was the guy that created it. He's from Texas. Oh, he's a Midwesterner like me. He's probably like 30 times the developer that I am, though. Let's see. I have 6 kids. I just have the 2, man. Six kids is a lot of kids. I'll take it as a compliment, though. I don't mind being the off-brand of a super successful game developer. Is this C#, right? Yeah, we're working in C#. Also, Steven, will you remember us in the future? I think so, unless something happens to my brain, you know? I try to remember anybody who's come back in more than one stream. I tend to remember, like, my channel is so small at this point and my viewership is so small. If you've come back to more than one stream, 9 times out of 10 I recognize at least I recognize your like YouTube handle, you know, your username and your profile picture. Landon Russell, he is not offhand Scott Cawthorn. Otherwise, he would try a last attempt at making games and end up making the best game. Oh, is that how Five Nights at Freddy? Five Nights? What's the game called? Sorry. I've never played it. Five Nights at Freddy's. Is that how that worked? Like that was like his last hurrah and it was super successful? Because that's a great story, right? That's one of those things like if you're ever, I don't know how many of you guys work out, but if you're ever like doing like a plank for, I don't know, there may be people know what a plank is, but a plank is like an exercise where like you're on your forearms and you have to basically keep your body straight to help you build your core, to help you strengthen your core. But that whole idea of like you always feel like giving up, like if you're doing a plank for a minute, you always feel like giving up at 59 seconds, right? And I think that's so applicable in life. Like you always feel like giving up when you're just about to break through, you know? So if that's really the story behind his career, I applaud him. Landon Russell, he used Click Team. What's Click Team? I don't know what that is. Oh, it's a development software for creating video games, tools, and apps. I've literally never heard of this. So is it like it's basically like a no code. It's made by the French. Designed to be a user-friendly yet powerful drag-and-drop game and application creation program. So he used this to create Five Nights at Freddy's? Oh yeah, right here. That's cool. Very cool. Chad is teaching me all sorts of things this evening. I used it once, it sucked hell. Unemployed Mohit. Hello, what are you making? I am making a console app, so just an app that you run in the terminal that helps me create content for my live streams. That's what I'm making. Artwork series, you'll go crazy. Yeah, I'm supposed to be writing code also. I haven't written any code, so we need to do that now. Okay, so this is my prompt, but I don't want my prompt in my code. So I think what we're going to do is we're going to have an embedded resource that is basically a text file with my prompt in it. I think is what we're going to do. So actually, let's do a quick Google. Actually, let's ask Gemini. Maybe let's use some AI, huh? Let's see. Let's use some AI here. Since AI is going to take over the world, we should make sure we show it that we care about it and value its opinion. Let's see. I'm building an app in C# in .NET that has a prompt for an LLM in it. I don't want to put the prompt in a giant string in my code, my source code. What would you recommend doing? If it says an embedded resource, then I'm going to be like, yes, okay, I was right. Okay, it's suggesting that I make it configurable. So the first thing it suggested is I put it in a configuration file, which I like, right? Because not everybody may want to use the same criteria for analyzing their shorts as I want to use. But for now, I'm not going to worry about that since it's just for me. External text files. Yeah, so this is the idea I have. I think we should stick it in a text file and just embed it as a resource. Or I could use a database, yeah. But this is a CLI tool, so. So it's saying I should definitely use an app stage. I just don't think it should be in a JSON file because these are very long strings of text and I don't want to author them in a JSON file. I want to author them in a text file or a markdown file. I think the better solution actually, so when I do make this configurable, I think the better solution, in my opinion, is you have a setting like this, but instead of this being the actual prompt, it should be the path to the file, right? So you author your prompt in a text file or a markdown file, and then you tell the app where that file is on disk. I think that's a better solution for the for a console application, in my opinion. So I disagree with you, Gemini. Okay, well, let's see. We're gonna do a new. Let's see, new library, new folder, resources, and then let's do. I think I'm just gonna call this like the default prompt, right? So this is just what the app's gonna use, or maybe it probably should be unique to each analyzer actually, right? Because if I implement an analyzer for Claude or I implement an analyzer for ChatGPT, right? You may want to tweak the prompt. Now let's not overthink this. We'll just create a default analysis prompt, and we're just gonna dump it in there. I'm sure somebody right now is like, no, don't do that. That's a terrible idea. Oh, actually, I don't want the comments in there. Undo that. And this is actually I'm going to make this a markdown file, not a text file. Yeah, I don't care about the linting errors in here. I do want to make this a proper list though. And then this, so this is going to be passed in. So the transcript has to be passed in as part of my prompt. So I think what I can do here is I think I can just leave a placeholder, and I think I can just use like string.format to replace that. Okay, so that's where my prompt's going to live for now. So we can delete all this for the moment. Excuse me. Okay. Yeah, I think that's what I want to do. I also can delete all this. And then I just need to make sure that that resource gets embedded. And then I need to retrieve it. Excuse me. Let's see. See how it works. You guys have a good night, man. Is AI going to take over? I don't think so. I do think AI is probably going to play a significant role in the future. I mean, given the billions of dollars people have invested into that technology, there's probably be very difficult for us to turn back time, but I don't think it's going to take over. / use a string template. I could use a string template. I just hate how that looks in my code. I hate having this template string that takes up 50 lines in my source code. But I could definitely do that. / look at semantic kernel. Semantic kernel's cool. I actually used that for a couple work projects this past year, a couple POCs. Semantic kernel is very cool. They've actually been doing, Microsoft's been doing some other cool things with trying to build like nice, reusable, handy, what I want to say, libraries for making working with AI easy. They've got one now that's called it's called Microsoft dot. I think it's something like AI abstractions or something like this. Yeah, AI dot abstractions. This one, which is pretty interesting. Let's see the fall. So basically, they're trying to unify all the different LLM providers behind a single, behind basically a single interface, right? So you have an iChat client, but you can have an iChat client that is talking to Ollama, or is talking to Gemini, or talking to Claude, which I think is pretty cool. This library I think is much more intended for like user friendliness, and then semantic kernel is sort of like the you want to go deep and you need lots of different tools and functionality. I think semantic kernel also has like sort of a host model, right, where you can build kind of plugs in to the existing .NET hosting model. But I used this for a couple POCs and really enjoyed it. Has support for function calling. It has this idea of a planner where you can basically like, I think they use Handlebar as the template language for this, and you can basically have it create a plan, so there's a lot fewer back and forth with the LLM, which is pretty cool. And then it has really easy plugins for the different like memories, like you can plug in vector storages and all different kinds of stuff. So yeah, semantic kernel is very cool. I've explored like this much of it, but I do know about it. It's probably more than I need, though. At this point, all I need to do is make a single HTTP request to one LLM provider. So it's more than what I need at the moment. But good suggestion. Hey, what's up, Oxnell? Just wake up. I wish I could stay and watch, but I have to go to work. No worries, man. Have a good day at work. I hope it goes well. What about prompt reusability and testing many prompts, though? At this point, I'm not too worried about it. At this point, I'm just going to roll with what I got because I'm happy with the way it works. But maybe for future iterations or future improvements, that's something we should think about. They have an LLM prompt template on GitHub too. Oh, very cool. Look at this too. I can't see your link. I think YouTube prevents the links from showing up. Otherwise, I'd be happy to take a gander at it. I honestly, I don't know if you guys were here earlier, but I honestly can't believe I just got an alert about it. I honestly can't believe that guy, Dan, sent me a $5 super chat. That's wild. I should find something fun to do with with that. If somebody actually sends me super chats, we should put together something fun that the stream can use the super chats for. Like I kind of think it would be fun to like go to a coffee shop and buy a bunch of people's coffee in line behind me. That might be a fun thing to do. Promptengine.net. Oh, that sounds very interesting. Promptengine.net. Ooh. Let's see. This package provides an easy, reusable interface to build prompts for large scale. They should have better examples in their README. Let's see, summary prompt? No, content analysis. That's what we're doing. Oh, why is it? But look at this. This is all stuck right in. I want a better way. I don't want to stick all the text in a string in my code. That's the thing. I'll have to explore this more. Let me star this real quick. I think just using an embedded resource file is fine for now. Like I said, I'll probably make it configurable where the user can where the user can supply their prompt through some sort of configuration or setting. But for now, this was fine. Deathboy, any tips or advice getting into basic general knowledge of coding or like a starting place to begin? Yeah, so at Deathboy, I'm gonna send you over. Also, nice username by the way, Deathboy. I'm gonna send you over to Free Code Camp. So Nightbot will hook you up with a link. Learn to code. If you type !learn to code. Landon Russell, $1. Hey, Landon, you don't need to send me enough super chats, man. You probably worked very hard for your money. But if people are gonna send them, we're gonna have to figure out something to do with that. That we can make some content with it. That was very kind, man. Let me. I didn't get to reply to Dan's, but thank you, Russell. That's very kind. Landon Russell, have you heard of GameJolt? It's super good for sharing games you have created. I'm not a game developer, so I don't. That's like a problem that I've never had. So I have not heard of GameJolt, but sounds like if you're a game developer, it could be very useful. / congrats on your first super chat. May a millionaire bless you and your family. Dude, if a millionaire came into my chat and dropped some if a billionaire came to my chat and dropped some millions in a super chat, you guys probably would never see me stream again. So let's hope that doesn't happen. / well, how the string gets in the code isn't important. It's just a string. You're right. It's not important, but it's more of an aesthetic thing. It's an aesthetic thing. It's the fact that I open up a file and there's 50 lines of text, a 50 line long string of text in my source code. That I don't know. I revolt at it, right? So Learn to code. I guess Nightbot doesn't work if I put learn to code with somebody's name. So there you go, Deathboy. That link right there, freecodecamp.org, that's where you want to head over to if you want to learn how to code. Jack, can you make mods? No, I don't think so. Are you talking about like mods in video games? Then no, I cannot. It's easier, for example, to embed the strings even. Laugh my ass off. You're right. I get it. You're right. I'm curious. What I'm curious of, and I probably should do some Googling, is I want to see how other people are doing this, right? Like there's other people in the .NET ecosystem that have large prompts that they're using as a part of their apps, and I'm not sure how they handle it. Maybe they do. Maybe they all do just put it directly in the source code, but that seems like a really bad practice. Abdi, what does sealed do? So sealed just basically prevents other people from inheriting your class. So like whenever you seal a class, you can't do something like this. So if I come down here and say public class derived inherits from Gemini Analyzer, the compiler isn't going to let me do that. Right? It's going to say you cannot derive from sealed type. And so it's basically, I would call it like what do I call it? I'd call it like, how do I explain this? In C#, to me, using the sealed keyword is like defensive driving. It's a way of saying, when I wrote this class, I did not think about how other people might use it in an inheritance way, so I'm going to seal it. Now, if I had thought about people using it and deriving from it, then I can leave it unsealed, right? And so you can always, it's like you can always start something being sealed and then unseal it in the future, but once you expose it publicly and you don't seal it, it's forever, right? It's forever unsealed. Because if you seal it, then you break people who derived from it, if that makes sense. So I tend to default, when I'm writing code, I try to default to sealing everything and only unsealing it when I explicitly intended it to be used and to be derived from. I think other languages have this idea. Somebody mentioned a keyword final in PHP that does something similar. Yes, /. I get 100% get what you mean. Read it from a file or stick it in a string. Either way, it's there. /. They use semantic kernel, Steven. You're probably right. If I Google, I'll probably come to find somebody says, just use semantic kernel. Hamong. I think this channel is becoming one of my favorites again and again. Keep bumping the algorithm has got your videos all over my YouTube. Well, I'm hoping that you're not angry about that, but obviously I don't want to annoy people. So if you find my face is too much to look at multiple times a day, just I don't know, hit dislike a couple times on some of my videos. I won't take it personally. I'll totally understand. But I appreciate it. I'm glad that you're enjoying some of my content, man. Landon Russell. Oh, and speaking of game development, what if for the super chat thing, at enough donated, you made a game? That game would be ugly. It'd be so ugly. But I also don't want to I don't want to incentivize people to give me their super chat money. Like I have a day job. My stream does not support me and my family, and y'all work very hard for your money. So you guys should use your money on something other than Deathboy. That is way too kind, man. That's way too kind. Like I very much let me just say, this is wholly unnecessary, but extremely appreciated. I guess my point to this being, to what I was gonna say is, I don't want to Landon. That's a cool idea, but I don't want to incentivize people to where, hey, you guys need to pay me money in order for me to do fun stuff on stream, I'll just build a game on stream if people want to see that, right? Like, one of the things I have on my list to learn is Godot. Also, Deathboy, again, thank you very much. That is very kind of you. So if people want to see me build something, we'll just do it, you know? Landon Russell says, Deathboy, chill. No, it's very kind, Deathboy. I just want you guys to know that I stream because I enjoy it, and I make the content because I enjoy it, and I have no expectation of super chats and no expectation of memberships. I know firsthand how hard it is to acquire money. So please do not feel the need. please keep it and use it for something that will benefit you. But if you're going to give it to me, then we're going to try to find some fun things to do with it and try to make some content with it. All right, where was I? I think I was answering Abdi. Put the prompt in a separate GitHub repo, pull it in your application. That way you can update the prompt without having to update your source code. Yes, agreed, Abdi. And I think that's where I was saying earlier, I think I'm just going to embed this one as the default, right? So if like you don't supply one through configuration, we're just going to have an embedded one that we use. But I think we're going to allow people to configure it, in which case we will source it from that configuration, or we'll just grab the default one. I do agree with you though, like it probably would be nice if we wanted to edit the default prompt, not to have to publish a new version of the code. So yeah, there's a lot of trade-offs here, but I'm trying to keep it simple because honestly, I fully expect this app is only ever gonna be used by me. Landon, fun challenge though. Either way, yeah. I think we should do something around Godot. Like I think Godot supports, or is it Godot? I'm not sure how you pronounce it. Godot. They support C#, so I think that would be a fun thing to learn. Alex Buckley, is learning code on your own good enough to get employed? I mean, being fully dedicated to learning for like a year. I think it depends on how much you can accomplish in that year. I do think it's totally possible to learn how to code and get a job. Oh, you redacted that message. But I definitely think it's possible to learn how to code and get a job by teaching yourself. There is definitely self-taught developers, right? My experience with it has been I started as a support analyst, so I kind of got my foot in the door, and then I started gaining technical skills and sort of worked my way over to an engineering role slowly. It took me like 2-3 years, right? But the whole time I worked for this company, I was developing the skills so that whenever there was an opportunity to work towards kind of an engineering role, I was ready to say, oh, I'll do that project, or oh, I'll take that on, or oh yes, let me have a shot at that, right? So it was like, I'm sure people have heard this, right? It's luck is opportunity plus preparedness or something like that, right? So it's like you're kind of preparing yourself for the thing you want, and when you're given the opportunity for that thing, you want to be ready, right? That's why you do the preparation, so that you can seize the opportunity. Well, Abdi, that is very kind. Thank you for the super chat, and also thank you for the comment of great content, because I try to make content that I enjoy and that I enjoy making. And so if other people find that useful, I really appreciate that. Alex, okay, thanks for the advice. Of course, man. Yeah, always happy to offer my 2 cents. Whenever I've said this before, but whenever I have two sons, young sons, But I imagine someday in the near future, they're going to have a lot of these same questions. And so whenever people ask me uh, stuff like that, I just try to envision like, what if my 18-year-old son was asking me this, or what if my 21-year-old son was asking me this? What would I say, or what could I share with them? Uh, so I'm hoping it's helping you when I answer those questions, but secretly you guys are helping me practice for for when I have to inevitably form some useful piece of advice for my own kids. I'll be right back. I gotta blow my nose. I just, for some reason, I've developed a stuffy nose all of a sudden. I also need a drink, so I'll be right back. Not like an alcoholic beverage, but like a Gatorade or something. I guess I should be getting coffee, but I'm not sure if I should be drinking caffeine at 11:28 at night. Okay, I'm gonna mute myself. When I come back, just make sure you remind me that I'm muted. Or I shouldn't say make sure. I should say, if you could remind me when I come back that I'm muted, I would appreciate it. I remembered that I was muted. I'm so proud of myself. Full disclosure, there is evidence of a stream on my YouTube channel where I literally streamed for 2 hours on mute. Alex, I'm 34. I don't want to go to school for it. LOL. So I heard being self-taught is pretty common. Yeah, I'm 32, man. So we're right in the same age bracket. Self-taught's definitely a thing, for sure. I would say where I work, it's like 50. It's like 50-50 or 60-40 degree to self-taught developer. So I think you can take that as encouragement. Why is this so big? Reset. What is this? View? There we go. So I definitely think it's possible. Arkin, how are you doing, man? Nice to see a friendly, familiar face. Chalufa. Hello, Chalufa. How are you? Also, I hope I didn't butcher your username. Alex. Okay, that's more than I thought it'd be. Yeah, I mean, where I work, it's that way. I mean, I'm sure there are some places that, are a little, what I want to say, stuck up, right? Nose in the air, kind of stuck up about, oh, you got to have a degree to work here, CS degree, but I think if you're willing to apply yourself, you can most definitely learn it and get a job. right, how about I stop chatting for a second and I actually try to implement this. Hey, what's up, Steven? I sent a hello chat. I think you two are. Oh, I must have missed it. And I am so sorry, Arkin. You did say hi. I see it now. And I'm sorry I missed it. It's just good to see you, my friend. YouTube didn't need it, man. That's just on me. I just missed it. But thank you for saying hi. I hope you're doing well. It's good to see you again. Good to hear from you. Okay, so now I have this question about my Gemini analyzer, right? Okay, so the Gemini analyzer is really a wrapper for an HTTP client that makes a very specific request. That's basically what it is. So in order for this analyzer to work, it's going to need an API key, right? So I could have like a Gemini client class, but I think that's probably not helpful. So I think what I want to do is I want to most .NET libraries I see now, they either accept an HTTP client as a constructor argument or they accept an HTTP factory. I think what I want to do, is I want to have private read-only HTTP. I need to add that package. So basically what I'm going to say is I'm going to say if you're using this class, you have to provide me with the HTTP factory, and then you have to provide me with the API key, and then I'll use the factory to new up the HTTP client, and I'll use your API key, obviously, to build the request. So we need to find what library that comes from. HTTP client factory. So I need to add Microsoft extensions.http to my library. So .NET source or .NET add StreamShorts library package. And then I should be able to say HTTP client factory. And I think I can just, so I'll use a primary constructor. And if you don't pass me one of those, I'm going to get angry about it. I'm going to throw an exception. Throw new null argument. Name of HTTP client factory. And that. And then I'm also going to ask you to provide an API key, I think. Yeah. API key. And if that is null, we're going to do the same thing. Now, in the application code, you're probably going to have something like a Gemini config Gemini options object that you bind your configuration to. But because I'm writing this in a library, it needs to be sort of agnostic from like the place it's being used in. So that's why we're not like building like a Gemini analyzer options class. And I think taking a dependency, like from a library perspective, you might say, well, man, taking a dependency on HTTP client factory, that seems unnecessary. Can't you just take a dependency on HTTP client? Yes, I could. But I think best practice, right, is to use the HTTP client factory. And so 9 times out of 10, this library is going to be used in some application code, right? It's going to be used in a console app, a host in a console app, or it's going to be used in a web application or a REST API. And in which case, 9 times out of 10, you're just going to add the client factory anyways. Okay. I'm fine with that. I'm going to work with that for now. I might change my mind. But right now, at 11:38 at night on Wednesday evening, that's what I'm thinking. Hey, what's up, Pablo? How are you? Steven, you got yourself cold in this scorching... Yeah, I don't know what happened. I was literally just sitting here and all of a sudden I started getting a stuffy nose. Sorry, Big Nova. I missed you stopping by. Thanks for stopping in and saying hi, man. Appreciate it. / just made a 3-cheese protein mac and cheese for my lunch for work tomorrow. That sounds delicious. What were the 3 cheeses you put in it? Hey, Pablo. How are you, man? I appreciate you stopping back by a stream. Very kind of you. Cool. In C# you can throw as an exception. Yeah. Or as an expression. Yes, you can. Although, man, I tell you what, recently in the C# community, the use of exceptions has become a hotly debated topic. There's people that just believe you should never throw an exception ever, and they're vehemently opposed to exceptions for control flow, which they kind of have good reasons, but at the same time, it's like the language was kind of built around using exceptions for control flow. So if you don't want to use exceptions for control flow, you have to do quite a bit of work to not use them. And sometimes it's just easier to do what the language is built around, in my opinion. Bro is floating in the state of flow. I'm taking my water soluble CBD. Nice. Well, sounds like you're getting ready for the end of your day, man. Sounds like you're winding down. Haven't seen you in a while, man. How are you? Yeah, my stream schedule's been all over the place. Like last week, I streamed from like midnight to 2 a.m. one night. It's just been all over the place. So I appreciate you stopping in and saying hi, though. That since you saw I was live, or maybe YouTube put me in your shorts feed without you having any say so in it. So either way, I appreciate you leaving a comment, just saying what's up. I have written code in state of flow that right now I cannot decipher. Well, for me, that's a pretty common occurrence. That's like, if I write, so I'll write this code right now, right? And then once I get it to a place where I'm happy with it and it does what I want it to do, I won't look at it for 6 months. And when I come back and look at it in 6 months, I'll be upside down. I'm like, what the fuck was this guy doing? I have no idea what I was trying to accomplish here. / it's parm, cheddar, and mozzarella. You can't go wrong there, man. So you may not know this / or maybe you do know this. So in my former life, I was a food scientist, and I actually made an awesome 3-cheese macaroni bite for was it Outback Steakhouse? Yeah, it was Outback Steakhouse. It was Parm, Asiago, Maz, and I think we added there was a fourth cheese in there that we added, but we still just referred to it as a 3-cheese mac and cheese bite. It was macaroni, like a blend of macaroni and cheese, and then we breaded it and deep fried it. It was awesome. It would give you terrible heartburn, but it was really good. Pablo, return results. Yeah, so the result pattern is very cool, and I see people in C# implementing it. I've implemented it a couple times, but it's a lot of extra. I mean, it's a lot of extra code. I mean, it does force you to be very explicit, and it does force you to acknowledge that sometimes things succeed and sometimes things fail, and you should handle both cases. So I definitely see the value in the results pattern. It's just in the C# language, that's not a thing. So you got to implement it yourself or use a library. And sometimes the path of least resistance is just easier. And so we're just going to throw exceptions. Let's see. Seika. Oh man, I'm going to butcher your username and I'm really sorry. Sika Ionch? Hi from Japan. Hello, man. I'm sorry I butchered your username. Also, jalapeno, pepper flakes, and black pepper. Yeah, that sounds delicious, man. You're killing it. Fred, test. Fred, diagnosis. I don't know what you're talking about, Fred. / YouTube does keep showing your content to me. Well, I'm hoping that it's not getting too annoying. Like I said, I will never take it personally if you're tired of seeing my stuff as being shown too often. If you just want to hit that thumbs down button a few times to to tell YouTube to slow its roll. So hopefully it's not aggressively showing you my stuff so much that it's annoying you. Arkin. One situation you want exceptions is when you want yourself back up in the call stack, but some of the live functions are not owned by you. Yes, I will agree there too. And I think there's something to be said about like it doesn't have to be all one way or the other, right? You could use results with exceptions. So like in REST APIs in .NET, sometimes it's really easy to have like a global exception handler. And so it's really nice to be able to just at the very top of the stack say, hey, if I haven't handled the exception, I'm just going to catch it at the very top and return a 500. Right? So there is some benefit to that. But maybe somewhere in your code, like maybe in like the service layer of your API, you always return results and handle results, because sometimes the things the operation that the service is doing, you do expect it to fail sometimes, right? So I totally see the value in mixing and matching and kind of using both approaches where applicable. I like exceptions, but I like my applications to be chaotic. Food scientist sounds like something I'd like to do. Oh, it was a very fun and interesting job, for sure. For sure. You need more funny content? Okay, yeah, man. We can do more funny content for sure. Effect. The TypeScript library does results a bit different. You should add it to the list of things to check out. So Effect is the library that uses all those generator functions, right? I just listened to a podcast. I don't know if you guys listen to podcasts, so maybe this will be a good recommendation for you. There's a podcast I listened to called DevTools FM, and I actually just listened to this guy, Maxwell Brown. And he works on that effect library. I think we're talking about the same thing, probably. Effect.ts, right? I've seen snippets of this on X, but it's basically like a lot of generator functions, right? Like, Creating effects. Oh, I guess this is not a generator function. I guess the snippets of code I've seen, they basically use the yield keyword a lot. Or am I completely making this up? Yeah, I think this is the thing I've seen before. Yeah, we should probably check. We should probably add this on the list of things to look at, shouldn't we? Let's see, File Explorer / I want to laugh. Oh, for sure, man. We all do. That's why TikToks is like my favorite social media at the moment, because I laugh my ass off at all that content. Arkansas, by any chance you drink very cold drink? I have found if I drink cold water, I will get cold, even if weather is like 38 degrees. I will only drink room temperature drinks ever since. Oh, interesting. No, I've never noticed that, but maybe I need to pay more attention to that. Can you slip on a banana peel? I mean, I guess you could. Yeah, but that's Golang and functional programming, not C#. Yeah, I mean that, and I guess that was my point originally about the whole exceptions. Is like exceptions is what C# was built around for control flow, so it's just easier to use those. But I see the value in not using them as well. Pablo feels really weird with the generators. Yep, really cool. Effect -ts like MobX. You definitely yield, yeah, especially for async. Can you shift the code screen on top and cam on bottom? We could. I think that's actually how I had it at one point. Why did I move it to the top? I think I moved it to the top. I don't know why. I think Yeah, I don't actually remember why I moved to the top, but we could experiment with it on the bottom. Is there a reason why no one knows why you think it should be on the bottom? Is it because does the chat like cut off part of the code or something? Because if that's the case, yeah, we can for sure explain flipping it around. / That's like saying don't use exceptions in Python. Makes no fucking sense. Well, yeah, you're kind of fighting the language at some point there. It's interesting because in C#, exceptions are the primary tool for control flow. But what's actually interesting though is like exceptions are very costly. Like they're a big hit on performance. So there's been a bunch of people who have written about who have run performance benchmarks in C# code, comparing code that uses like a result pattern or a discriminated union sort of implementation to some extent versus using exceptions. And the code that doesn't use exceptions is much faster, which is kind of interesting. It has been this way since I've been around. Depends on if we are chatting where we want to see you talk or you are coding and we want to see the code. Yeah. So there should be YouTube needs to come up with some functionality where people can just rearrange the windows to fit their particular preference. No one knows chat is overlapping the code. We have to turn off chat to see the code. Okay, maybe. Well, yeah. Okay, I need to do some research then and just look at the stream on my own phone, and maybe we just alter the layout of the bottom pane to account for chat being open. Would that be? I mean, it'd be less screen. It would be less vertical screen shown during the stream. Yeah. Or we could move my face to the bottom. I'm not opposed to either. I can explore that. Shivash, can you do my Python homework? I don't want to. What / said, you'd have to pay me money to do your Python homework. Okay, now I'm gonna start sounding like a real streamer. Yeah, man, drop a super chat and I'll do your Python homework for you. Or maybe that's like a membership benefit. Join my level 5 membership and I'll do your Python homework. Arkin, you said performance. I did some testing on JavaScript exceptions are 4x the cost of returning error/value pair anonymous objects in Java. In Java, to my surprise, exceptions are nearly costless. Oh, interesting. That's super interesting. If you're using OBS, you can have 2 modes and swap them with a keyword shortcut. Oh, that's a good idea. That's a super good idea. Just set up a separate scene with the layout inverted and then just transition between the two. Pablo, you're 10x. For sure 10x dev over here. That's a great idea. Okay, so yeah, I'm going to do that. Also, we're going to add to the list here try effect.ts, which will just be a whole lot of me reading documentation because there is, look at all this documentation. Holy crap. They've got stuff for AI too. Platform level stuff. Holy moly. This is a ginormous endeavor. I'm curious, Pablo, so what's the target use case here? Is this, is basically you use effect to build the app? Like it becomes your runtime essentially? Like effect is a replacement for Express? Is that a valid statement? Like instead of saying I'm going to build an API with Express, you say I'm going to build an API with effect? Pablo, yeah, for sure. /Patreon. Yeah, so we could do you could say join my Patreon or support me on Patreon and I'll do your Python homework for you. What's up, Ankit? How are you? Good to see you, man. Yeah, but if you got to the stage of an exception, it's likely not mattering the cost, though. Yeah. I mean, that's fair. Like in the concept of like an HTTP request, like in a web API, like you're throwing the exception and you're terminating the request. So yeah, I could see that. That's probably valid. Yeah, let's read it together. Dude, this has got to be like a few days worth of reading in here. Let's see. The program state is already invalid at that point, usually now. If you're throwing exceptions on non-fatal errors, then yeah, that's dumb as fuck. Well, but like even like but again, like even in the code that I'm writing, it's like we're throwing exceptions just instantiating objects. Right? If you instantiate an object wrong, we're going to throw an exception, which could happen anywhere in your code, right? So like exceptions in like just the paradigm of the exception, or even in JavaScript, the paradigm of an error, it's not really meant to like just crash the program. Like you can't just have errors crash the program. Like in the context of a web application, that doesn't make sense. I guess in the context of like a CLI tool, sure, you just throw the exception up and exit the program. But yeah, no, in the case of like in like application code, that doesn't really work. Target is flawless backend logic. I think you can, yeah, but you can also use Express plus effect. Interesting. Yeah, so I'll have to do some exploration because it seems like it's almost like an application framework from the docs. Just reading the sidebar here, like quick scan, it's like for example, it says create effect app. So it seems like it's almost like a application framework. Hey, what's up, Abu? How are you, man? It's been a minute. The problem, Steven, is people will throw exceptions for non-fatalers. Yeah, but I feel like that's pretty normal to do in a lot of application code in languages that use errors as control flow. Which language is this? I've been writing C#, although I haven't written any for the last 20 minutes, but that's what we're building an application in C#. It's like a warning, like, you're a dumbass, you called this wrong. Yeah. So maybe that should be the name of our exception. Instead of argument null exception, we should call it dumbass exception. You're a dumbass exception. Pablo, in React, you are encouraged to throw promises, lol, but in the context of React, it does make sense and performance is negligible. But there are people that say not to do that. Yes, you can build. Some people are anti-exception to the max. The C in C# stands for Claude, right? I guess it could. Let's see, probably yes, you can build APIs. Yeah, we'll have to look at that. I've seen lots of snippets of effect.ts on TypeScript, or not TypeScript, on X. And the thing that caught my eye the most about the snippets were the generator functions. So I'm interested to see where those come into play. All right, I'm going to try to implement this bit of code here. I'm just going to copy paste this over. Oh, I also need to copy these. Okay. So yeah, I'm just gonna try to. I'll refactor this into better code, but let's just see if I can get this working in a separate class. Oh my gosh, what did I just do? There we go. Let's format that. Okay, so the client in this case is actually going to be. It is actually going to be HTTP client factory. Create client. This has an overload. What's the overload? So we'll say client dot, is there like a timeout? Equals time span from minutes, and we'll just actually set this to, it's gonna take a little while, so let's just set this to 5 minutes. That's probably needs to be configurable, but let's just do that. And then we need to bring in some using statements. Oh, we don't have our prompt anymore. So I'm gonna have to figure out how to load the prompt. Make this async. Yes, I know. Not all code pass return a value. I understand. Okay, and then we need to return the analysis like that. And then we need to bring in those other classes that I defined in that separate. I'm running out of steam, honestly, if I'm being completely honest. just bring in this real quick. And this is actually going to deserialize to a list of short clips is what this is going to deserialize to. Short clip. And then this is going to be a new transcript analysis with the short clip set to clips. Also, I'm going to add a constructor that takes the clips. Transcript analysis takes interval, short clip. Okay. Why is this still complaining? Oh. Well, if this is null, then we'll just give it an empty list. Okay, so this is complaining because we don't have a prompt and we don't use the API key. There we go. All right, so we just need to figure out how to get our prompt, which may be a thing for another day because I need to embed it and then I need to extract it. So this may be something I finish tomorrow. Jesus Christ, the only begotten Son of God loves you. Well, that's very kind of you. He loves you as well. Abu, I'm fine. It's been a while. How's everything going? Yeah, man, life's going good. Like, I'm healthy. My wife's healthy. My 2 boys are healthy. I have a job. I have hot running water. I've got food in the pantry over there, so I've got nothing to complain about. / effect, Steven, is like, I have a timer. I want to write it in an imperative way. Okay. Interesting. Voldy, I see you've graduated from NeoVim and now we're using VS Code. It's not so much that I graduated from NeoVim. It's more that, what should I say? It's not that I graduated from NeoVim. Oh, it's that the project that I'm working on. So I don't know, Voldy, if you're in the C# ecosystem, the .NET ecosystem, but I will go on a little explanation here really quick. So for a long time, the .NET test command and the testing ecosystem in .NET has largely been built around VS Test as the kind of platform for doing testing. However, Microsoft recently announced and released what they're calling the Microsoft Testing Platform. So this is going to supplant VS Test in coming years as the kind of default testing platform. It's a little more lightweight. It's a little bit more portable. It's kind of more focused towards like a CLI, cross-platform, CI first world, right? So it's kind of in a world where not all .NET developers are using Visual Studio. The problem is my NeoVim setup does not play nicely with this Microsoft testing platform. So when I try to run my tests in NeoVim, the tests succeed, but NeoVim says they failed. So my plugins that I'm using in NeoVim aren't playing nicely. That was bothering me. So I switched over to using VS Code, which has support for the testing platform. So that's why we're here. Excuse me. Steven, tell him about how I'm a psycho and I embed NeoVim. Yeah, so yeah, and I'm still using Vim motions, I guess, in VS Code, right? But then what // mentioned, there's actually an extension that loads NeoVim in VS Code, which I tried. I didn't really care for the experience, which is why I'm using the Vim emulation extension. So in effect, generators are used instead of async functions, and yield is equivalent to await. That allows the library to do stuff when you yield into an effect / promise, like handling errors. Oh, interesting. Okay. Wow, that's whoever is behind this effect library must be some TypeScript, JavaScript wizards. They must really understand the language better than I do. All right, we're just gonna. I'm not gonna do this right now. I've run out of steam. Let's see. To do load prompt from resource file. Ugh. Also, another to do here. My to-dos are epic, right? Very, very descriptive and well thought out to do. Sort this shit out. Okay. We're going to commit this. Let's see. Git, add, git, commits. Work on implementing. We'll just say whip on implementing Gemini Analyzer. I've been testing out Dart and Swift these past few days. They're actually pretty good. Oh, nice. Yeah, I haven't done anything with Swift. I've not done anything with Dart. I haven't done anything with mobile application development. I feel like I should probably take some time to learn that at some point. Park and Steven, stop it. Get some sleep. Yeah, I'm getting ready to hang it up for the evening. Because it is after midnight. A 3-hour long stream is this might be a record. I think my longest stream is, well, I take that back. I did some streams during Advent of Code last year that were like 6 or 8 hours long. I mean, no one was watching, but they were long. Yeah, I kind of feel like maybe I need to do a little bit of work in mobile app world, or at least figure out how to use React Native or how to use Blazor to build native applications. It would probably be a good thing to at least have some familiarity with it. I don't think I'll use Dart, and I probably wouldn't use Swift. I'd probably use .NET MAUI if I was to do it in C#, and I guess I'd use React Native if I was to do it in TypeScript. / is Flutter not good? I don't know, honestly. I'd have to defer to Voldy on this. ES, hi, what are you working on? I just finished it, but we're building a, this is what we're building. There's a little diagram that kind of explains it. We're basically building a tool that will be given one of my live streams, and it will produce short videos. And I sort of have a working prototype of it, but right now I'm turning it into like a proper console app. And then after I get it into a proper console app, I'm going to build a little web UI for it, just for funs. And it's going to make my life easier. Flutter is closer to a web browser than to the native platform, and working on mobile apps being native is important. RN allows you to stay closer to native. Okay, nice. Don't use React Native unless you want to cry. Really? It's that bad? Huh. I was just thinking I like to write React, and I know how to write React code, so I figured if I was gonna build a mobile app, that probably is the best thing to use for that if I was gonna do it in TypeScript, but maybe I'm wrong. I've heard Swift and Xcode, like the development experience for native iOS apps, is pretty bit rough. I've never actually used any of those tools. That's just what I've heard. Yes, cool. Yeah, appreciate that, man. Yeah, it's one of those things where it's like, this was a problem I had, and I was like, you know what? I know how to write code, and so I can build something that will make my life easier. I should just sit down and invest the time to build it. When it doesn't work, you will cry. Okay, fair enough. It looks like you guys have way more experience with the mobile stuff than me. But maybe there's an arc. Maybe there's an arc of the stream where we take a month or two and go down the mobile app rabbit hole. Honestly, my issues with React Native is Gradle. What the heck is Gradle? I don't know what that is. Gradle is the open source build system of choice for Java, Android, and Kotlin. Oh, interesting. So I'm guessing you use Gradle to turn your React native code into the native thing that you publish to the app, that you publish to the Play Store, I guess. Yeah, see, this is a whole new world for me. This is actually something that's super interesting about software engineering, or being a developer. I don't know if I'd call myself a software engineer, but being a software engineer or a developer is like you can be pretty adept. Like you can be pretty adept at building web apps, or you can be pretty adept at building mobile apps, but you switch to one or the other, and it's sort of like you're a beginner all over again, right? Because you've got to learn all the tool chain, all the things, right? Like, which is kind of weird. I guess you just get a lot better at being a beginner, I think is the key, right? I still can't. I'm looking at my I was just looking at my YouTube stats. I still can't believe people sent me fucking super chats. That's nuts. Yes, what's the tech stack for this project? So the tech stack right now is just C#. It's .NET and C#. That's all it is right now. It will be, when we do the web app, it will be Blazor. We'll use Blazor as the web framework, but right now it's just a console application written in C#. And then I will just for the CLI apps, I'll just compile them to binaries for each of the different OSs. I'll Linux, Mac, and Windows, and so it'll just be a single file, a single executable file that you can put on your machine and run through the terminal and be off to the races. I haven't really done the web app side of it, but the web app will probably be a Blazor server app, and then I'll probably Dockerize it is what I'll do, which has some interesting Like I'll have to figure out how to get ffmpeg into the Docker file, which I'm guessing is not too complicated. I've never done that before though. But yeah, that's the plan at the moment. Any mobile app for Android uses Gradle. Okay, very cool. I think it's called PWA on iOS. PWA is the way to go for most things. I spend half my time convincing people their app should be a web app, not a mobile app. Yeah, the thing, someone mentioned PWA earlier, and the problem with PWA is like, if PWA really was the answer, I just don't think you'd have all these native applications, right? Like if PWA was able to, and didn't Apple do something that like nerfed PWAs recently? Apple, like I remember DHH in a big huge uproar about it. Apple iOS PWA. I thought they blocked it or something. Or they did something. Maybe they rolled that back. But yeah, I totally agree. Like if you could just build a progressive web app, like that would be the solution. The inability to trigger mobile push notifications on iPhone was the blocker for many teams to even consider a PWA. Huh, maybe I'm making this all up. I could have sworn Apple did something that fucked up PWAs. Also, someone needs to tell Excalidraw. Oh, they do have a dark mode. I was gonna say someone needs to tell Excalidraw they need a dark mode. They already have a dark mode. Honestly, I would say if you don't need to send notifications, access the camera or the file system, you can use a PWA. Oh, okay, interesting. Yeah, that seems kind of restrictive depending on the app. Camera, probably not so much. I guess file system, maybe. But if the only thing you're doing is your client just runs and sends requests to a server, right? Then PWA probably does work. Okay. All right, guys. I've lost my steam. Suhas, I tried to. Hey, what's up, Suhas? Just sliding in here, man. You can access the camera and do notifications, just way harder. Well, I guess it all depends on how much you want to take on. Suhas, I love it. What do you think about switching browser? When you said Zig, I thought you were referring to the programming language, not a browser. Oh, Zen. Interesting. All right, guys. I want to keep chatting, but at the same time, I have to be at work in like 8 hours, so I'm gonna call it quits here on the stream this evening. I'll be back tomorrow, but I appreciate you guys hanging out with me. Appreciate you guys keeping me company, and yeah, just hanging out. I always appreciate people who come back and revisit my streams. All right, Voldy, see ya. Bye, Suhas. Bye, Arkin. Bye, Pablo. Who else is here? Equal slash if you're still here. See ya, man. No one knows. See ya if you're still here. All right, guys. If let's see, if it's Thursday for you, have a great Thursday. If it's already Friday for you, have a great rest of your Friday. And if I don't see another stream, then I'll catch you in a short or a video, the comments of a short or the comments of a video. Either ways, hope you guys are doing well, and I'll catch you later. Bye. Bye, guys. See y'all.